Good afternoon, this is Matt Lindsay with Precision Home Group here in Anchorage. So today we're coming to you talking about real estate. That's right, every day we are hitting you up with information, education, and you name it, information for you for real estate. So today we're talking about investments. This month we're talking about investments. We're gonna dive into it. Now, the last couple days we've been talking about different types of real estate investments. We talked about flipping, we talked about wholesaling, we talked about single family homes yesterday. Now, today we're gonna talk about residential multifamily. And what that's gonna be is it's gonna be duplex, triplex, and fourplexes today. So that's what we're gonna focus on. And again, we're speaking to our knowledge, our content, what's going on in our marketplace. So we'll be talking about specifically here in Anchorage, but then we'll be talking broader scale, why you would or you wouldn't want to get into a fourplex, duplex, or triplex, and then we'll go broader than that. But here today, we're going to focus in on Anchorage, and then we'll get out a little bit further, as we said. So if you follow me for any amount of time, you know that I like multifamily, you know that I like investments, that I like cash flow, that I like deals that make sense and that are aligned with that end goal. And we're always gonna start our videos out this way. We're always gonna talk about making sure you know what you're looking for in an investment, because if you don't have requirements for an investment, then you're just investing on any deal that comes across your way that you think may look like a good deal, but doesn't play a part in the bigger timeline, that bigger goal, that bigger target, that bigger game plan. You're not putting the puzzle pieces together. You're just kind of, just throwing pieces together. It's kind of like you're playing with Legos and you're just like putting things together. Oh, this piece fits here, this piece fits here, this piece fits here. And then by the end of it, you're like, what did I make? Or you could have a set. You could have, that really cool Death Star, Star Wars Legos, and you put it all together. At the end, you have this pretty sweet model, if you will. And so that's what we're talking about here, bringing it back to real estate. So fourplexes, is it the right investment for you? Can you call it an investment? And is it something that you should be looking at or going bigger? That's what we're talking about. So let's dive into it. Before we dive into it today though, I'm gonna talk about a fourplex we have on the market. Now this is an MLS printout. Can't really see it. I'll give you the basic information. So a lot of our fourplexes here in Anchorage are going to be listed between kind of that $300,000 to $550,000 price range. That's the majority of our fourplexes here, and we see a lot of sales going on in this price range. We have some here that are actually listed, $800,000, $900,000, $1 million for a fourplex, which is, I think, is outlandish. We even have one fourplex on the market right now for $1.8 million, believe it or not. For a fourplex, it's crazy, I know. And we have some under that, but the bulk of those purchases are happening at that $300,000 to $550,000. So with this being said, we have the one we're looking at today is $550,000. This is 8 bedroom, 4 bath. So we're looking at 2 bedroom, 1 bath units. Great units, easily rented. This is located in a good part of town. It's in a great neighborhood, other small multifamily around it, and they tend to get leased up pretty fast. So, it's got that going for it. This property also, about 4,300 square feet, so pretty good size. I mean, we got community area, right? We got hallways, general entrances, and stuff like that. So you have a little bit of lost square footage with that community area, but with 4,300 square feet, you can guess that, each unit's probably around that 1,000 square foot mark, which is a pretty good size unit, especially for a rental in this part of town at this price point. So, off to a good start here, except that price, which is $550,000. Now, upon further research on this property, we're looking at, hey, what is this? What are the rents here? So we have, it's all rented out. We got all 4 units rented. We have one at, let's look here, 1050, one at 1075, one at 1115, and then we have the 4th one at 1150. Now, right off the bat, I can tell that, hey, these rents are kind of low. Just knowing what I know about the market, knowing about what I know about other rentals in this area, these rents are a little bit low, but I can't speculate. I can't sit here and say, hey, if the rents were here, this property would make great sense. No, there's leases in place. We're not going to be able to go and change these unless they're month to month. Then we can do some changes to those rent amounts and raise those up potentially. But as it stands right now, that's what the rents are. That's what the books show. And so what we need to figure out is, does this justify that $550 price point? And if it does, maybe we'll start looking at this. If it doesn't, then we need to go look at other properties. So when we start looking at this, we're looking at about $4,390, about $4,400 coming in every month just off the rental income. This does have a laundry unit there, and that's averaging about $100, $150 per month. So what we're really looking at for a monthly income is going to be about $45.50 is going to be our that income coming in. That's going to be the rental income, and it's also going to be that laundry, that additional income, because we always look for ways to add income to our properties, and by doing that we can raise the value of it, raise the cash flow, and everything else. It's a good day. So with that being said, we need to start looking at what are the expenses on this property. Are the utilities individually metered? Can I bill that back to the tenants? What can we collect from the tenants so me as a landlord isn't paying that? Well, we have gas at $220, electric, water, sewer, trash, and all the utilities come to about $650, $700 per month on average, okay? So when we're looking at what our expenses are on average minus our our income, then we can start really looking at what is our net operating income, what is the income at the end of the day. And one thing we didn't mention here is we should also be looking at the vacancy rate. What is the vacancy rate in this area in Anchorage as a whole for properties of this style, and what's going on? And what we're seeing here is about 5%. We're looking at about 5% vacancy rate. Some will say it's a little higher, some will say it's a little lower. But as a general, right now, we'll keep our eyes on that 5% and factor that in. So when I take that potential rental income and then I minus the vacancy rate and the expenses, we're really starting to look at about $43,000, in net operating income, in the NOI. And that's what people are going to market. You can see that in a lot of people's marketing plans, a lot of marketing strategies, send this property out and say, hey, look at this number. That's the net operating income. And a lot of people aren't aware what that means. Hey, that means I'm going to make $42,000 a year. That's awesome. Let's go forward. Let's buy this property. Well, we haven't even factored in some of the mortgage payments into that. And a lot of people are like, what? No, that's supposed to come out as an expense. Well, it doesn't. That is an expense that happens after the net operating income, because the net operating income is actually showing you what the income would be minus expenses if you purchase the property in cash. And so they're not putting that mortgage payment in there, because if someone's looking to pay it with cash, it's not an expense that they have on that property. And so you need to keep that in mind and not think that, hey, that $42,000 is actually coming to me. Hey, there's actually some other expenses that we should be looking at, and other so expenses like mortgages, also reserves and things like that. You got to keep in mind. And not everyone puts all the expenses in there. Some of the expenses that aren't typically mentioned: property management, if you're going to use that, yard maintenance, you're looking at snow plowing, you're looking at repairs, you're looking at all these different things that aren't associated. Legal fees. What happens if you have an eviction and you haven't accounted for it? Now you gotta, not only is someone not paying you possibly, but also now you gotta go through the eviction process and that whole time period of not getting paid. So a lot of the expenses and stuff, that's what reserves are for. That's what setting aside money is for, which a lot of people don't do, especially at this price point. So with all that being said, we have a property that's being sold at $550,000, and with it, net operating income, I'd say of about $42,000, $43,000. Now, when I'm looking at $550,000 as a mortgage, not a lot of people these days are putting 20% down as an investment. A lot of people are trying to move into these properties with a residential low down payment loan. So that's going to be your VA, which is 0 down, your FHA, which is 3.5% down. There are some other loans out there that are low down as well. And then you have conventional down to 5% down. That's all they're using to get into the property. Now, if you're going to do that, we're going to base our numbers off of a FHA loan, which is 3.5% down. At 550, we're looking at putting about, let's see here, we're looking at putting about $19,000 to $20,000 down on this property as your initial investment, minus any closing costs and other fees, just the down payment portion. With that and a 5% interest, we're looking at about $36.88 per month with FHA. That includes mortgage insurance and some of these other fees. So $3,688 month over month times 12 months. We're going to be starting to look at that and say that our debt service is going to be $44,256. Now, when I said that my net operating income was actually $42,900, well, my debt service is $44,000. So actually that puts me negative on this property, and that's with all 4 units rented out. That's if you are owner occupying for that first year and you are paying yourself rent, which not everybody does. Almost nobody pays themselves rent when they're living in their own property. So we can see here that if you're not paying yourself rent, well, that's going to take out a quarter of that income for the year, and you're going to drop that net operating income down to $30,000, and now you're negative $14,000 for the year. So what we're going to say is we have no cash flow. There is zero cash flow for this property because we're trying to get into it too small. Now, we have the right idea. We have a great idea. Let's get into multifamily. Let's see if we can produce some cash flow. Let's see if we can produce some income. But we need to analyze the deal before we get into it. Make sure that the property's not overpriced. I'm not overspending. Now, people are going to come to you and say, hey, look at this comp over here. Look at this comp over here. These sold. There's things in the neighborhood that sold for these prices. And that's all fine and dandy. That just means that those people got ripped off. Those people overpaid for those properties, even though the appraisers are saying it's worth that and everyone else. If the income on that property doesn't justify that property, I myself would never purchase it. I would encourage all my clients not to purchase it, and we would walk away, go find ourselves another deal. We have several buyers right now looking for properties that after we've helped provide information, education to them, we've walked away from deals because there's nothing on the market that justifies the price, what we're looking to pay for. And the numbers just don't make sense. So you're not gonna hear this too often, a realtor say, hey, we need to walk away, we need to go analyze, we need to wait for other product or inventory to hit the market. We need to wait until we find that property that makes sense for you, right? Because you have a lot of people just getting that commission breath, just saying, hey, I want to make a sale, I want to make a sale, hey, push you into this property. But that's not the way you make a client for life. That's not a way that you, make sure that that client is making a correct purchase, doing the right thing, and really moving forward so that the second, third, and fourth purchase are all in line and moving forward at the same time, not necessarily, one's hindering the others. So all this being said, we went through some numbers. We talked about, having multiple doors. We talked about the expenses and some of those hidden expenses that people don't calculate and things like that. All this is to be said is that look out for the numbers. Analyze the deals yourself. If you don't have the raw data, go get the raw data yourself. And whenever you get analyzed data, make sure that you're verifying it. Trust, but verify. Check it yourself. Get the numbers yourself. You want to see rent rolls. I want to see taxes. I want to see the last 3 years of income and expenses. I want to see this property ran as a business, because if it's not, which most people don't, then I can't verify anything and I can't trust what anybody is saying. I can get some leases and see, hey, when do these expire? What kind of leases are these? But if someone's not willing to run a property like a business, leads me to believe that they may have not have done a proper credit check on the tenants, maybe not a proper background check on the tenants. They may have not done the correct, a great lease to protect you as a landlord and to protect the tenant in the first place. So always, always, always analyze the deals that you're looking to get into, and we're looking at income, we're looking at leases, we're looking at the property, and we're looking at legal, what's going on with that property, has there been any evictions and stuff like that. So all this is set aside. How is it a good deal? Is it cash flowing? Does it make sense? And then we're gonna start looking further into that property. That's my first hurdle that we're gonna jump over, just to make sure it's a good property that we can continue looking at. We may not move forward on it, but we can start that conversation if the numbers make sense. And a lot of people say, oh, I'm gonna do all the work myself, property management, I'm gonna do myself, maintenance, repairs, collecting leases, advertising for vacancies. And that's all great, but how scalable is that? Are you gonna be able to do that for your next property, 2, 3, 4 properties? And if you're gonna be able to do that for those, how much are you really saving yourself with the time you're putting into it? If you're only cash flowing a couple $100 a month, you're not really cash flowing, because that's not worth your time. Also, there's a lot of people out there that say, hey, there's reasons why we do this for tax reasons. Even if the numbers didn't make sense. There's a lot of people that's just gonna say, hey, at least I'm paying down that mortgage and we're gonna be able to have that, right? And we're building that equity, right? There's appreciation, right? Well, let's look at appreciation over the last several years. Or should I say the lack thereof for the appreciation. Properties have not been appreciating that much. And when we're talking about paying down a mortgage to get that equity, all you're talking about doing is putting money in the bank. Literally, I can go put money in a money market account and get a better return on that over the course of the next 5 to 10 years than I could paying down a mortgage. That's literally the same thing that you're doing. So let's talk, let's get together. Let me show you how all these numbers make sense. Let me show you how we can actually get you into a real property. Let me show you how we can actually start increasing your income like I talked about yesterday, putting that money away into a sacred account, and then taking that money once you've established and once you have enough income there to go put it into a correct property, a real asset with enough doors that's going to make you some cash flow. So excited to talk to you about that. This leads us into our next talk, our next video on commercial multifamily properties, 5+ units, and we're really wanting to see you in 16 to 20 units and above. So we're gonna start talking about that tomorrow. Tomorrow we're gonna talk about that for a couple different days. So if you have any questions at all, let me know. Love to talk to you about that. Love to talk to you about any contract particulars, numbers, particulars, analyzing the deal, whatever you got, send it my way at matthew@precisionhomegroup.com. Drop me a comment or send me a DM. Excited to hear from you.